gentlemen, and welcome back to Bill and Jaru Discuss. Joining me is Jaru J.
Yo, that's me, greatest Deltarune Undertale Five Nights at Freddy fanfiction writer since Matthew Patrick himself.
That would be funny if I knew who Matthew Patrick was. I am an uncultured swine.
Game theory.
Oh.
That's the game theory guy.
Future Bill, cut that out. Yeah, Matthew Patrick. Yeah, great YouTuber. Sad for his retirement. But yeah.
What are we talking about today, Bill?
Yes, this is definitely not a re-recording of a review we might have recorded a few months ago. So we've already talked about, you've already read the title, Five Nights at Freddy's. We've talked about it twice on this channel. First game, we said was pretty good. It's actually, honestly, probably even better than we even expected looking back on it. It's great atmosphere, great dark humour, and just overall it's kind of creepy. Like, honestly, not really much to improve aside, I don't know, maybe better like visuals for scares, maybe. The second game, though, that game can, as the good old fan some would say, can go die in a fire because it was not scary. Story was confusing at first glance, unless you go freaking MatPat theory. See, I know who that is. And just overall, just oversaturated with so many animatronics. It's that even took away a lot of their personalities from the first game. And
True.
Just overall was just. It was just annoying. You could do it. It's also just, what's the word for it? What's that thing? It's like RNG. That's it. Like, it was just pretty much RNG. Where you can be like pixel perfect with everything, but just because you did one thing on a picometer too late, and I know picometer. That's such a big word for me.
Is that even a measurement of time?
Maybe it is. I just heard it on the Superman film. Big brain Bill knew such a word.
Oh, yeah, nice.
God damn, I've exposed myself. But yeah, the point is, like, you could be almost pixel perfect with that game, but just because you weren't just that little extra Minecraft pixel perfect, you lost. Sucks for you. Do it all those do those minutes again. Like, I know each level was like, realistically, I think they're like 5 minutes, aren't they? Maybe a bit longer than that. But just because how often you died and had to redo everything, learning these mechanics that the game barely taught you, yeah, it just wasn't a good sequel, maybe. Like, I'd even say it's of the quadality, I guess it is, with Chapter 4. Like, it's definitely
Quadrilogy?
Quadrilogy, that's it. Yeah, it's definitely the worst one, in my opinion. I'll save my opinions for part 4 in the future, but we're talking about Five Nights at Freddy's 3. Criticised by YouTubers, criticised by viewers. Some gamers say it's a downgrade from Five Nights at Freddy's 2, and I honestly think it's actually an underrated sequel, and it's actually much better than the second one.
What? This is such a shock. I have not heard this from you before.
Yeah, I guess the shock factor's kind of gone when we had to re-record.
What re-record? This is our first time discussing this.
Just be better at acting, Jaru.
I'm a YouTuber, I'm not an actor. I only know how to act stupid, that's my job.
You sound like the Cookie Monster. Re-record? Me live re-record?
Nom.
Actually, plot twists, I never watched those as a kid. I just know of them through memes.
Yeah, no, I watched Sesame Street, but I actually only have just recently watched the first 2 Muppet movies.
I've watched the Muppets, never Sesame Street.
Yeah. It's kind of an American thing, I guess.
Oh yeah, like Muppets are really popular over in the UK.
Yeah, which makes sense because the Muppet Show was filmed in the UK.
Yeah, exactly. So Five Nights at Freddy's 3 had a very interesting development cycle. Like, I think we might have discussed it when we were reviewing part 2 of Five Nights at Freddy's, but the development for these games was not long. Like, I think each game came out less than a year from one another. In fact, this game got released, like, I think a month early after the demo was released.
Yeah, no, it was pretty speedy production in those first few years of FNAF.
Yeah, like if there's one thing, like regardless whether you like Scott Cawthon or hate Scott Cawthon, you know what, that man knows how to lock in. Like when he's passionate about
Yeah.
a game, like when he's passionate about a game, he will ride or die.
He goes hard. There's no denying that.
Yeah. For better or for
Bro,
worse.
for better or for worse. Hey, yeah.
So, I don't think we really talked about, at least not too much, about discussing the advertisement for Five Nights at Freddy's 2, because it was some solid advertising. He had like a web. I'm not sure if he still has his official website now. I'm pretty sure it got like taken down years ago. But when he was promoting his games, like we had that pretty famous Bonnie out with the old, in with the new, so Withered Bonnie and Toy Bonnie on the same screen, which, you know, it's a small thing, but it's a really cool way of like teasing a sequel.
Oh yeah, and it made like the new Bonnie see like he was gonna be such a big deal.
I mean, he had more animations than Freddy. I mean, his PNG image was moving. I mean, he was moving behind the mask.
Yeah. You know, that's certainly a thing.
Aren't you scared, Jaru? Doesn't this random PNG image that Future Bill's gonna edit in look scary to viewers?
Oh god, yeah. Oh, I'm so scared of colorful, unthreatening bunny toy.
Yeah, you know, that image is kind of funny realizing that. I mean, all the animatronics in the last game were kind of lame. Like, the only one I could truly say had a personality was Foxy, because he mechanically worked differently. That's as good as his personality got.
Yeah, nah, it's unfortunate because it's like it's clearly. I mean, not to redo our discussion on FNAF 2, but a big part of that game's problem is there's just so many characters that none of them really get much personality. Like, to the point that, like, I could not tell you anything about the toy animatronics personalities, at least not based off of purely FNAF 2. Obviously, later games have expanded upon them a little bit, but that doesn't excuse the original. So yeah.
Yeah, but so of course Scott did that advertisement again for Five Nights at Freddy's 3, and now these advertisements I think was so much better than the second ones. Like the first image shows kind of a hidden figure with the new. I can't remember what the exact title was, but you saw the main animatronic. You know, just a little bit of it, and people were theorizing: is this Golden Freddy? Is this a new animatronic? So you know, it was fun. It got people talking about the next sequel. But my favourite image has to be one where it shows the little box of all the either past animatronics as well as the toy animatronics. And at first you're thinking, okay, so they've scrapped all the toy animatronics, which that must have been cathartic for people who did not like the toy animatronics. They're just reduced to being scraps in a box.
Yeah.
Like, but then of course, if you increase the saturation on that image, there's a figure standing next to the box, which is. Honestly, just that image alone is creepy. Like, you know, like, there's so much ways you could creep someone out. Just a silhouette just hiding in the shadows. Like, just, it doesn't,
Yeah.
you don't have to go crazy with a monster design figure. Just the idea that something is standing there and you can hardly make it out. Already, you've increased the scare factor.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we finally got a trailer, and we finally got to see what this animatronic was. Because people, once again, were theorizing. Because I vaguely remember the title saying something like a collection of everything. So people were theorizing we were going to get like a amalgamation of all the animatronics combined into one. And I will say, we technically did get that, but not from what people were thinking. But funny enough, we would eventually get that in, well, Security Breach.
True.
So already people were still theorizing, like, what is this animatronic? And then, well, the first trailer came out, and once again, I love this trailer where it shows, like, the main antagonist you'll be confronted, like, kind of glitching out on the floor, which, you know, we'll be calling back to that moment later on. And then it shows the full animatronic, like, standing in frame. And it's like, okay, so this is going to be the main antagonist. And it didn't reveal too much of where you're working or other things that you would have to worry about. All you know is that there's this one animatronic going to kill you, and people trying to dissect dissect, like, what is this environment you're working in? Are you back in the original restaurant? Are you in a rundown version of the previous restaurant from the previous game that turned out to be a prequel? Did we ever bring that up in our previous discussion? I feel like we had to have brought that up.
Oh, that FNAF 2 was a prequel?
Yeah, like, I feel like we had to have brought that up. That was like the big twist, quote unquote.
Yeah.
So already, like, I thought the advertising for this game was solid. I thought it was done better than I thought the second game, where the second game just kind of threw all sorts of random images and animations, and it was just like, and then a Foxy jump scare. It's like, everyone loves Foxy.
Yeah.
Whereas this one didn't reveal too much, which I liked. And I guess similar to how we spoke about the setting for this, actually, I guess we had to kind of talk about how the game opens, because the first game opened up with you just being in an office and just getting your welcome to working at Five Nights at Freddy's, you definitely won't die here, to the second game actually having a cutscene where you're like Freddy looking around to a restaurant, then you're in the office. This game kind of starts off very interestingly, where it plays the little mini-game things that you would only see if you died, and trust me, if you play Five Nights at Freddy's 2, you're gonna die and see these cutscenes, or mini-games.
Yes.
So, each time you complete a level, you would get these little mini-games where you control the animatronics, and you just wandered about following, I believe it was like Golden Freddy you were following, or it might have been Shadow Freddy. It's been a while since I've played the third game.
Yeah, in the second game, I think it's Shadow Freddy.
Yeah, so, you know, the animatronics can't enter this one specific room, which is a bit strange. And then the purple guy, who was seen in all the mini-games of the last game, just comes out, smashes you, and does the Fortnite default dance on you. Seriously, I can never look at that little dance he does without thinking, like, it's just him doing the default dance when you look at it.
Yeah. No, that's hilarious. Now I'm just imagining him in Smash Brothers, just Afton cuts in, just.
You know, it's like Mario just walking around the restaurant with a flashlight, and you're thinking it's gonna be Freddy, but then the suit falls apart, and you just see the purple guy. He just plays the Smash theme. Da, 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 da.
You're right.
Yeah, let's be real. If somehow FNAF was going to end up in the next Smash Bros. Game, which you know there's going to be another one, it's definitely going to have to be Freddy that joins it, or Fox, or Foxy.
Yeah, you'd think it'd be Freddy, because it's like, yeah, they got Springtrap for Dead by Daylight, but like, that makes sense. It's the villains, it's the monsters. But like, for Smash, you want the most iconic character, and I feel like that's got to be Freddy. In fact, they might just go straight Rockstar Freddy, if I'm being honest.
He has weirdly glowed up in popularity also. I mean, hell, he was in the Indie Cross, so I guess he's more popular than original Freddy, which kind of makes me sad, but I didn't really have that much opinions on Freddy in the first game, that much, to be honest.
Yeah, like, he's a vaguely threatening antagonist. He's like an effective, quote-unquote, final boss for the game, but like, that's about all his character provides. Honestly, that's been a recurring issue with the games, is where like the main focus is on the animatronics, but the animatronics aren't the characters of the narrative, and so a lot of the times we like FNAF 2, for example, isn't really about the FNAF 2 animatronics. It's about humans off screen who you only get glimpses of in minigame form. And so because of that, a lot of the animatronics just don't really feel like characters with, you know, goals and motivations. And that's really an issue that doesn't get solved until like Sister Location. So no, it's an interesting dilemma that you don't really see that kind of problem in other franchises. So yeah, no, that's interesting.
Now, speaking of interesting though, one thing I've actually kind of liked about, well, the setting of this game was, are you in a restaurant? Are you in a little cafe? Or are you in a pastry shop? You'll only understand that if you live in the UK. No, you are in a horror attraction. So the people that have bought out this restaurant, or I don't even think it's a restaurant, I think it's literally just some abandoned warehouse, and
yeah,
they found all these like I like little details. If you look around your offices, you can find like old pictures from the. I never realised this until after our initial first recording of this. But the pictures in your new office are the pictures from the first game in the office. Showing, I mean, one, I feel as though given the timeline of this game, those pictures should look more decayed than they actually are. But
yeah, but then like who knows what the goddamn timeline is? Honestly, like
That's
for all we
true.
know, this takes 10 minutes after FNAF 1.
For all we know, this might have been the Dark Souls universe when the second flames were ignited.
Yeah, God, don't even get me started on multiverses or timeline shenanigans. Jesus Christ.
I never thought, combining multiverse theory and Five Nights at Freddy's sounds so stupid, yet when you actually look into it, you're like, oh my god, there actually is a multiverse sort of concept.
It's Jesus. You know one of these games is going to add time travel. It is inevitable. They're going to go full Avengers on us. Like, it's going to be awful.
Do you remember when Five Nights at Freddy's just used to be about killer animatronics and just you trying to survive them? Pepperidge Farm remembers.
Ridiculous.
But yeah, so the theme of this game is that you are overseeing even though it's technically open, it's more so it's still under construction because they want to turn all the horror stories that have been around, the pizzeria, the Fazbear Family Corporation. It's like, yeah, given the fact this franchise has been around for so many decades and there's been loads of murder mysteries, it was inevitable this would become like a horror attraction. Hell, if this game came out around the popularity of Netflix murder documentaries, there would have been a Fazbear documentary on Netflix.
Oh, yes. 100%.
And how to make a Fazbear killer. So, yeah, it's a horror attraction. And I did actually kind of like that. Like, the first game, how it has the setting was the restaurant looks really nice, but kind of that creepy feeling at night time. Because if you've been in like restaurants or supermarkets when the lights are off, it's kind of off-putting being in an area where there's like no one. Like, it's weird. Like, we're so used to seeing so many people around there, and then suddenly it's all abandoned. Like the hallways, like a nice little detail is that you see like Bonnie, Chica, and Freddy's original animatronic, like the original animatronics in the hallways. There's like those little creepy, like cheap like monsters that will jump scare you at like when you go down the corridor, that sort of thing. So that was kind of cool, but I guess we had to kind of talk about also the narrative, I suppose, because that's kind of I think we both expressed this probably in the previous recording. The narrative is the weakest part of this game, especially with how literally the first night nothing happens. You're just given a big old, like, literally the introduction goes on for the entire night of the level.
Yeah.
And you could quickly miss so much because you're too busy. Like, if you're like a Five Nights veteran, you're trying to look for the animatronics. Like, oh my god, where's he going to come from? Da, da, da. But
yeah.
No, nothing happens. Like, this is how you can find out if someone's never played FNAF 3. Like, oh, you could go to someone, hey, didn't you think that the first night was a bit bullshit? How many times that monster would appear? It's like, oh my god, I know. Joke's on you. That never happened. There is no monster on the first night. He's a fake fan. Get him.
Fake. Kill him. It's just really unfortunate because like. I don't know if we're at the discussing the gameplay section of the discussion yet, but
yeah,
like it could have real. Okay. Well, we'll talk about the gameplay more later, but needless to say, the intro would have benefited from, I guess, introducing mechanics a little more naturally, rather than just a huge exposition dump that people are only half listening to. But yeah, because God knows that people very much struggled with the mechanics.
Yeah.
And the lack of transparency surrounding them.
Yeah. However, though, I do think the game does start picking up at night too, funny enough, because in fact, the thing I find hilarious, they introduced this new character who's clearly voiced by Scott. He voiced a lot of the phone guys and stuff like that. And he put on like this radical, whoa man, isn't this such a scary attraction? And then throughout the rest of the nights, he just always sends recordings of lore dumps of the phone guy talking about the events of the story leading up to Five Nights at Freddy's 1 or 2, I guess.
Something like that.
Yeah, it's like, okay, then so you introduce this new character. Like, I'm willing to believe, this is just my headcanon for this, a headcanon for real life. I bet Scott just got tired of doing the radical boy voice, so he just went like, can I just go back to doing my normal voice, please? Wait, who am I asking this to?
Come on.
I'm my own boss.
Yeah, like, bruh, it's not like you have to record much. Like, it's like, at most, like 5 paragraphs of dialogue from this dude. Like, you could handle doing his dialogue.
Yeah, that's my headcanon. Like, for all we know, maybe he just generally wanted to do the phone guy again, because underrated. I do think the phone guy is an interesting mystery that I don't think got fully explained in any FNAF game. I mean, it might have been explained in the novels or comic books where freaking Fazbear characters are punching each other Dragon Ball style, bringing down skyscrapers. Again, you remember when this game used to be about killer animatronics?
No.
So, yeah, but this level also introduces the main antagonist of the game, titled Springtrap. And we'll probably talk about him a bit more in terms of personality and lore-wise, but hands down, the introduction to Springtrap, and even just later on this character, is one of the best villain introductions for, like, any Five Nights at Freddy's antagonist. Like, for instance, this guy's talking about, well, we found an animatronic, it's working, right? And then, if you're just going around just flicking through cameras, you might miss it. But the moment you look at the main entrance, because that's where... So, Springtrap kind of starts off near the entrance, and then he's unpredictable. He'll go... Aside events until late at night, but he pretty much bops into whatever the closest room is, trying to throw the player off. But
yeah,
if you look to the very first camera that leads to the entrance, I love that image of, like, you can barely see it. I mean, 'cause that's the point of Springtrap. So he's meant to act like a cold-blooded killer hiding in the shadows. But you just see, like, the silhouette of him. He's slightly covered up from some debris and stuff like that, of just Springtrap just standing by that door. It is so eerie and creepy. First time seeing it, I was like, okay, yeah, that's, like, it actually sent a shiver down my spine the first time I saw it. I was like, ooh. That's actually kind of menacing, because it doesn't. If you never saw the trailers or anything like that, you don't get the full idea what Springtrap looks like if you just see him through the first camera, because you just see his arm, his torso, and his legs.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I will admit, one of the critiques I kind of have of the cameras, they are a little too fuzzy. I will be honest. I kind of get they're meant to be like that to kind of hide Springtrap from the player. But I feel like the first game did the fuzzy screen effect a lot better. Like, it was fuzzy, but it wasn't like you couldn't make out anything. Like, oh, I can clearly, like, if you look close enough, you can tell Freddy's hiding in the shadows. You can see where other animatronics are. But this game, you have to really squint your eyes to, like, find the details. Because if you actually look at some of the backgrounds and other images, they look pretty cool. Like, you know, the decaying backgrounds, the little arcade machines that have got, like, cobwebs and stuff on them. But
yeah, it's...
That's all right, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, no, it's... I 100% agree. I think one of the biggest flaws of FNAF 3 is that the cameras are so hard to see anything on. And I think that's a huge missed opportunity, because combined with Springtrap hiding in the cameras, which I think that idea is good, but combining that with the static makes it to where a lot of players just never see him on most of the cameras, which is a huge missed opportunity, because having him hiding always in every camera is already going to make it tricky, but it also is such good characterization. It emphasizes that this isn't some mindless monster the way the other animatronics are. There's a mind behind this one. But that aspect of the horror is missed out on, because you can't see anything on the cameras.
Yeah, and people say, oh, look for his little white eyes, and that's how you see him. Oh, yeah, let me see the little white pixel. Wait, there's nothing but white pixels! It's like, don't shoot till you see the whites of his eyes. They're all white! So,
yeah.
But the thing that that's interesting. So when I mentioned beforehand how Springtrap is kind of a combination of like different animatronics, I don't think visually, but mechanically, I think he is. Now, I do think he takes a lot of things from how the animatronics acted in the first game compared to like how he acted in like, you know, the second game, because where most of the animatronics pretty much function the same. Literally, only 3 animatronics function differently. But so how Springtrap works is like, we'll say he goes through like, at first he goes a bit on that Bonnie side of things where he's on camera, you can see him a lot of the time, but then as soon as he gets like halfway to catching up on you, that's when he starts like hiding like Freddy does. But then later on in the night, he starts going into like the vents as he's sporadically trying to take shortcuts and hoping to get to you. Kind of similar to Chica, who didn't do her best hiding, and she was just that very energetic to get you. But then, obviously, once, similar to like Foxy, where if you weren't paying attention to the cameras on Pirate Cove, he would be near your offices, and to the point, all your mechanics on how to get rid of him are kind of out the window, and you just got to pray that you've managed to keep him at bay long enough for the timer to run out. And he's also one of the few animatronics he actually has proper animation, because the only animatronic that actually, aside the jump scares of course, that actually had moving animation on the cameras was Foxy. No, there was no animatronic in the second game that had any animation or anything like that. So
yeah, well, I mean, outside of jump scares, of course.
Yeah, like for instance, if you can actually miss it. Like, if you look at your cameras, I think it's when you're looking on the... No, it's not when you're looking at your cameras. I think it's when you're looking on the right side of the room. Oh, no, that is your cameras. If Springtrap is on by the doorway, which I still love how creepily, like, he stands by the window and watches you with... I know it's not meant to look... Or maybe it is, like, you know, from an artist standpoint. But I love because how decayed his mask is. It looks like he's smiling as he watches you through the window. Almost like he's saying, oh, you didn't keep me at bay. And then, if you look away, you can kind of see him like sprinting, across the window. And then, if you don't look at him, if you turn left just on time, you see him peeking in, almost like he's waiting for you to like, make that mistake. Like, oh, you look the other way, time to die. But if you're looking on the right side in your cameras, you see him sprint across almost gleefully as he puts his eyes over the camera, saying, "Oh, I'm on this side now." And if you look left and you realise he's not there, he'll just... It's a jump scare that you don't see often because, when people see him by the door, they're too busy just staring him down because they don't want to die. But then there's like the scene where he like moves you to the left and just shouts at your face, which is like... Like, that was one of the few jump scares, even just watching other YouTubers, that generally got me, because it's like, you're thinking, oh, maybe he's... I don't know, maybe he's hiding somewhere else, and he's like, nope, I'm right here. Like, it's that sort of sadistic play on this sort of character, showing that, because he could theoretically just charge into the room and kill you, but it's like he's toying with you, like, oh, I'm gonna have some fun with you.
Absolutely. Just because, it just shows that he could move quickly if he wanted to, but he's relishing in the horror of it all, and that's again great characterization.
I know they eventually give him some really hardcore dialogue, but I know future games there's that famous catchphrase, "I always come back," which is a very chilling line, and I know they've added more dialogue to his character in future games, novels, etc., but I feel as though him without dialogue still shows how much of a threat he is, because again, once he starts hiding in cameras, because he knows the layout, he knows which cameras are on and stuff like that. So it shows that sort of level of like, sadistic mindset of a killer. Because, most people think of cold-blooded killers as one of those like, oh, they just stab stuff. But people tend to forget, like, these people, if they can get away with murders for so long, they're calculated and they're smart to cover their tracks. Sometimes if you catch them, it's either dumb luck or they wanted you to catch them.
Intelligence, you do not successfully kill a bunch of people and hide it without at least being somewhat competent. So
obviously he's not Agent 47 dressing up in a suit and just blending in to wear a security outfit. that would be the
I mean,
that would be the ultimate twist. He's never been a purple guy. He's just always been a Springtrap, and no one's just taken a second thought.
I mean, supposedly the canon is that a zombified version of his son was getting night guard jobs at Fazbear for years. So clearly, people in this universe are dumb. So I could believe that he's always looked like this.
I've always been here.
I always come back to my 9 to 5.
Do you know, actually, speaking of like his like visuals, I love his design, and I love this little thing where if you sometimes log onto the game, you can get these like images. It's very rare when they appear, but you can get these images where, funny enough, this is almost like the first time you can see a fully 3D human model in Five Nights at Freddy's. Kind of. It's more so like the remains of what was once a human. So there's this. I love this visual where at first you just see Springtrap. You just see his creepy face staring at you for like a full minute. But sometimes you can log in where there's one moment he's trying to like pull the head off and stuff like that, and he's struggling. But then the most iconic image, which has probably been used for so many thumbnails, is when he's almost tore the head off, and you see the fully zombified skull of what was once a human. Like that is such a chilling image.
Very much so.
Like, now, obviously, we'll talk more about Springtrap as we progress to the story aspect. But let's say you mentioned before the gameplay, and I have some gripes, but I also feel as though this gameplay is a big improvement from the second game, even a little bit from the first game. Because when you really think about the first game's mechanics, you could spend your time just looking in every room trying to find out all the unique images of the animatronics, but really all you have to do is just look at Pirate Cove and come off it, check your lights, close the door when you hear Freddy's laugh, and literally repeat for 5 minutes. It doesn't really offer that much of the survival horror element. It's more like as you joked about earlier, a 9 to 5 job. Like you go to work, you know how things work, so you're just doing it to get it out of the way. Which I know kind of adds to the theme of what the first game was trying to be, is the tedium of coming to work. The twist is it's kill animatronics and not Karens. No, I feel like Karens is more scary than animatronics.
There's a terrible, horrific realism to Karens that you're much more likely to encounter them in the real world. So,
yeah,
truly, the real Five Nights at Freddy's was the Karens we served along the way.
So, how this game works is like, so Springtrap operates in like this mechanic where I think it's kind of similar to like the wind-up toy from Five Nights at Freddy's 2, where the animatronic will continuously go towards your area, and he'll always randomly choose a room based on where he is. So, for instance, if he arrives in the front entrance, which he mostly does at the start of each night, he'll either go to the room at the bottom, to the left, or to the right. It's unpredictable what he's going to choose, because that's the idea. He's meant to throw you off, and you're meant to look into each of his cameras. Like, I feel like it gives more reason to check out the cameras compared to the first game, because you're looking for the killer. Like, he's actually pursuing you. You've got to halt him, and how you halt him is with a audio of a child, which I will admit is kind of creepy. Like, I know we're not getting the whole, old school YouTube bear meme that I don't want to say because of, the good old yellow dollar sign, but
Yes, and we don't need to. But
Springtrap has standards. Be polite. Be efficient.
Yes. Yes, and and the idea is that it's the suit that drags him towards the sound of kids, not his own desire. I'm pretty sure his desire is to kill you, not abstract child noise, because he knows that it's fake. He hasn't despite literally rotting, his brain is in impressively good condition. He
would survive the 2025s. He could survive the brain rot. He's like, I've always had brain rot.
I've always had brain rot. I had brain rot before it was cool.
You just hear Freddy in the background. It was never cool.
and you were never the main character, so shut up.
Oh, he's got me dead, chat.
But no, yeah, and the lure, the audio lure, is easily, and I guess, yeah, so we're talking game mechanics now?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So here's the thing. The idea of the core mechanics in FNAF 3 are not terrible. The idea that there's just this one animatronic who is potentially very fast and very intelligent, who you have to abuse their weaknesses to keep them away from you, and you have to just be on your toes constantly. Like, that's a fine idea. Unfortunately, I would say the main issue with the game is that it doesn't really do an amazing job of explaining like what the core gameplay loop is supposed to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
like,
again,
there's no tutorial. Like, even in the first game, even though there were lore dumps, kind of, it also explained how the animatronics worked. Even the second game had that. Probably the one win we can give Five Nights at Freddy's 2.
Although I will say a recurring issue with this franchise, at least in the early games, was the way they tried to blend in lore with gameplay mechanics when Phone Guy was talking, but there have been more than one occasion where his quote unquote tips or lore or advice are not actually true to the gameplay mechanics. Like, he talks about how, you need to maybe do something with the cameras with Foxy ? And in FNAF 1, and it's like, no one understood what the hell he meant by that. And it's like, does that mean Foxy doesn't like cameras? Does it mean he likes cameras? And the actual mechanic involved, it goes completely unexplained. People didn't even understand it until people decompiled the game like a decade later. So this has always been an issue where it's like you hear all this lore about spring traps and spring lock suits, and they're distracted by noises, and it's like you can intuit that you can distract him with a noise, but, and here's a big issue I've seen, it does not clarify where you can place it. If you place it at like more than one room away, he won't hear it and it won't work. And if you place it on top of him, it won't do anything. So a lot of Let's Plays, you'll see people just spamming it on top of Springtrap, hoping it'll keep him there. But that's not how it works, I think. Even
as far as I know, that's not how it works. Like, if you play it there and there's no children, then the animatronic goes away, which... Yeah, I think I agree. Good mechanic could have been explained better.
Yeah, absolutely. And just the lack of effective explanation for the lure, combined with the staticky cameras, makes the core gameplay loop extremely ambiguous, which would probably make it one of the most frustrating of the games, if it weren't for the fact that it's also one of the easiest of the games.
Yeah.
More than one person has done like videos where it's like, I beat FNAF 3 by doing nothing, and it's like, it's so RNG, but like Springtrap is so slow, and you have to do the cheat mode, hard mode, for it to even remotely be a consistent challenge, and so that's the thing. It's fine for a game to be hard or difficult or whatever, provided that it feels like you're learning something. But for a lot of people, even if they die to Springtrap, they're not really sure what they should have done differently.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I think, like, in a way, because many people, even people who liked FNAF 2, complained that it just felt like I was just dying and dying and dying with no... Like, the only time you could really say it was the player's fault was when they didn't wind up the music box. Which, again, though, it was a tedious mechanic on top of more tedious mechanics dealing with tedious animatronics. Like, heck, one animatronic doesn't even kill you. He just takes away the only means of protecting you from an animatronic that can only be stopped by one thing. So there was that frustration. So I think Scott might have went too hard on trying to give you more simple mechanics to try and survive. It's always difficult to, like, you hear all these complaints, like, You know, and this happens with not even just indie game developers, also like AAA studio games like Shadow of Mordor, a really fantastic game with introducing the Nemesis system. But because the game is so easy, especially when you start leveling up all your abilities, you never get the chance to really see the full effects of the Nemesis system because you're just too overpowered. And it gets even worse when you have the domination, because you don't even need to kill all the orcs. You could just make them your allies, and then you never get to see the full extent of it. So then in the sequel, which added more, you know, to the Nemesis system, how even your allies can betray you because they think you're not good enough as a leader. Like, if you die too many times, they'll just be like, you know what, you're weak, I'm joining Sauron again. But they also went too far with adding difficulty modes, which isn't a bad idea. But if you go on, like, hard over normal, pretty much you would be battling a single orc for like 10 tedious minutes, and they have the mechanic where, oh, if you keep hitting them with certain abilities, they'll become immune to it because they learn how to fight you. And of course, if they're one of those like health sponge enemies, then you're going to utilize all your options, and then the enemy just becomes unbeatable unless you use like cheap mechanics, like spam them against a wall with like an environmental attack. So I guess Scott kind of went into like a different direction where his previous game was too difficult. He made it a bit too easy with like the mechanics.
Yeah, and it's ironic because like the reason FNAF 2 was difficult wasn't because of the mechanics, it was because of the RNG. Like, if the RNG wasn't so stupid, then that game would be difficult but fair, and people wouldn't hate it. But FNAF 3 still is extremely RNG. It's just that the RNG now is light enough that, you know, it's not too unreasonable. But like when you combining randomness with with inconsistency is just, or sorry, randomness with a lack of clarity in the mechanics is just a very dubious design choice.
I do like the mechanics though, which added on top of it. So for instance, now you would think you could probably span the audio and just hope that you could just keep keeping him in the two rooms and stuff like that, you know, the main entrance and maybe the right side of the room, and just keep him like sort of there, which was a tactic some people tried on night 2, which, you know, that might work for an extension of time, you know. And it's just not funny to imagine like, I had someone on my life side, I'm gonna get him, oh son of a bitch, they tricked me, hello near the main entrance, they were by the entrance all along, there's no one here, they hear it in the left room again, I think someone's duping me, but I better check just to make sure. Son of a bitch, they got me again. But the game also introduced... Yeah, I know, like, just picture him just going, oh, I'm going to get him this time, son of a bitch. Goes back, like, scuttling into the next room with a kitchen knife in hand, like, nothing. But
he just keeps coming back to the same room, and he just, every time he pops, he's like, I always come back. Ah, oh, damn it. They'll be here next time. I always, damn it, they're still not here, damn it.
He goes more British, apparently, with how your accent changed.
He is British, so...
Oh, yeah, he is, actually.
Wait,
no,
I thought he was, anyway.
No, I think he is, actually. I think you might be right.
You know, his iconic Springtrap quote, you know, hello, governor, you know, like, he says that, 100%.
Hello, governor. See my sideburns? They always grow back. But, yeah, but... So, obviously you can't span this mechanic because, well, there's this thing called the oxygen thing. Now, I would be questioning how you run out of oxygen in this sort of place, especially because the lore reveals later on you are just a zombie, so, you know, you don't really need oxygen. But whatever.
It's a little confused. Maybe the guy in FNAF 3 isn't the zombie guy. It's FNAF lore. Who freaking knows?
Exactly. You know, just roll with it.
Yeah.
So obviously you got to maintain your oxygen, because if you don't, you start blacking out and stuff like that. So, you know, and then suddenly you're like, oh crap, I got to fix that. But the problem is though, if you also spam your distraction thing, you could cause it to short circuit, and now you need to reboot it. So you have this like reboot thing and stuff like that. And you know, same with cameras. If your cameras are like overused and stuff like that, you could lose all footage. Now, there's a benefit to this. Even though you lose visual Springtrap, if you think you could like save on having to reboot it. You can still play the audio, but once you lose the audio, that's like a must fix. Like, that's my only means of protecting myself from Springtrap. So, you know.
Yes.
And the reboot system has that sort of like better RNG system. So, for instance, let's say you're that sort of person that spent time, you know, keeping Springtrap near the entrance, like you've done a good job there. However, now you like your oxygen, your visuals, or your audio have all gone out. Now you can reboot individually, and it's a lot faster doing it like that way for individual ones. So you have to choose which one is the more priority. If you decide, I'm too scared to decide which one is a priority, I'm just going to reboot all, which will reboot them all, but it takes double the time it would to just reboot like one individually. So it adds that sort of like, oh, what should I do? It's kind of like that Resident Evil gameplay. Like, do I try and walk past a zombie and avoid taking damage, or do I take the damage to save bullets and just heal myself with one of my health potions, or do I waste bullets potentially getting that, you know, critical hit and blowing his head off and saving myself a little bit more ammo, health, and no risk, you know? So
yeah,
that's why I thought Five Nights at Freddy's 3 did well. Like, yeah, it's easy, but obviously if you're in the midst of a panic, like, oh no, I've lost visual, oh crap, I need to also reboot my oxygen, oxygen's more important, I should have rebooted all, because once you reboot it, that's it, like, you can't cancel it or anything like that, like, that's it, you've chosen that now. So,
yeah, and I will say I also praise the resource management aspect of the game. I think that's a good idea. I think it adds more interactivity than just flipping through the cameras and closing a door occasionally. I think that resource management concept is good in theory. Again, if it was better explained that you had a finite number of lures before you needed to reboot, then I think it would work better. But again, it does not explain that very well.
Yeah, again, it's a bad case of like good mechanic, not explained, get good, son.
Yeah.
And this is also another hot take I kind of have. So one of the biggest complaints of Five Nights at Freddy's 3, like regardless of the lore and the freaking true ending 100%, and we'll get ready to criticize that, 'cause that's definitely the worst aspect of this game, is the phantom animatronics that were never teased, they weren't shown or anything like that. Some people talk about them being an afterthought, and I disagree with that. So one of my critiques of like a little bit the first game, but also mostly the second game. Now, jump scares can work for a horror game. Dead Space 2, and even the first Dead Space, well, the remake one anyway, because that's the only one I played, they did jump scares really well. Like, you know, one moment you'll be walking through a hallway after you just defeated a boss or a mini-boss, suddenly you're thinking, alright, the game's going to give you a breather room, then suddenly a freaking, like, necromorph smashes through the vents and it's like, oh crap, what, I just defeated the boss, man, give me a break! Like, you know, you're too busy thinking you had that breather and you're like, panic. But
yeah.
The second game, jump scares are pretty much death. Like, if you get jump scared, you're dead. So, like, in Five Nights at Freddy's 2, like, oh, what's that? You were only a few, like, nanoseconds too late putting your mask on to protect you from Freddy. You're dead! It's like, oh, what's that?
Yeah.
You didn't flash Foxy 20 more times after you flashed him 30 times? Dead!
Yeah.
Oh, what's that? You let Mangle get into your office? Dead, but I can't defend against that. Too bad! You know, and it adds that sort of, like, annoyance because, you know, what can you do to prevent the jump scare and stuff like that? You know, like, the jump scare is meant to be, like, your punishment. Like, hey, you went down this very obvious trap or something like that, and you were thrown off guard. Oh, wait, no, you're not. You're dead. That's not a really effective way to do a jump scare, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, and...
But the Phantoms, on the other hand, because first time playing Five Nights at Freddy's, and I can't remember if it was when I played it or I just watched a YouTuber. Most likely I watched a YouTuber first, then played it. You gotta figure, this game came out like 10 years ago now. It came out in 2015. Bloody hell, I'm old. So, you know, the Phantoms, when you first get jump scared by them, you're gonna think, oh, I'm dead, but suddenly... You see, like, you're waking up. For instance, there's the Chica animatronic, the Foxy, Freddy, Balloon Boy. He got a glow up in this game. Mangle and the Puppet. Each have their own mechanics on how to deal with them, but they also have, like, their own punishment if you fall into their trap. And when they jump scare you, like first time playing, you might just be like, oh crap, I'm dead. Oh, wait, no, I'm still alive. Wait, what's beeping? What's beeping? Oh, it's my oxygen. And if you're too busy panicking from that jump scare, or you're thrown off, like, you know, it's that moment of just like, oh no, what have I done? What have I done? Like, there's that fear of like, you messed up. So
yeah,
which I like, because it's not just as simple as like, oh, you got jump scared, haha, you fail, or it's not just saying that's just annoying because, we just thought let's just add a jump scare just to remind you we're a horror game. Like, for instance, Balloon Boy, if you're just going through the cameras and you see Balloon Boy looking through the cameras, you'll be thinking, what the hell? And if you don't think to switch to another camera and you just come out the cameras, you get jump scared and you lose camera footage. Foxy, if you look over on the left side and you don't look away just as you see like Foxy's arm, he'll jump scare you and affect your audio as well as your like cameras. Freddy, he'll walk across your window, and if you're just going to be gullible and just watch him the whole time, not only does he distract you into trying to find Springtrap, he then jump scares you and takes out, I believe, your oxygen. So all the other animatronics have their own like cons and like weaknesses that you can exploit to avoid them. But I think that's what makes the Phantoms not an afterthought. They were clearly planned mechanics because they affect you in different ways. Because, again, bringing up Resident Evil, which tends to be a theme when we're talking about Five Nights, we have to compare it to another survival horror. It's a bit drastically different. But, for instance, every monster has a mechanic on how to exploit them and deal with them. Zombies being the basic enemy, you just have to blow their heads off or shoot their limbs and make them, like, pretty much useless. Lickers are blind, so you could try and kill them at the waste of more ammo. Or if you think you're clever enough, you can walk around them. Tyrant, just be faster than the next person next to you, and then you'll be fine. Seriously, my permadeath stream, that guy, he just crept around every corner. I'm like, why do you keep scaring me? Yeah, I'll tell you a funny story about that after recording, actually. But yeah, so each of the Phantoms had a key mechanic. They weren't annoying. They were only annoying if you allowed yourself to fall into their trap. Like, first time, you're gonna get fooled in by their trap. Like, first time you see Freddy, you're just gonna watch that because you're like, is that Freddy? Suddenly he disappears. But okay, bye. You go to do your thing and suddenly, Freddy jump scare! And you're like, what? And then you learn, like, what if I just don't look at him? And if you just focus on doing your job and don't acknowledge Freddy, think of it as like your manager from work, then you know what? He'll just leave you be. But I guess you're probably going to bring out, though, they don't really explain the mechanics of these guys. You kind of have to learn it yourself.
Bingo!
Yeah.
And, like, you don't really understand at first whether they're illusions or a real threat. And, well, it's true that the whole, like, confusion you get the first time you get jump scared is an interesting kind of dynamic. I feel like with horror, I don't think confusion should be the target goal of the game. I feel like if confusion has happened, then something's gone wrong. Like, uncertainty is fine. Like, because, like you said, with Resident Evil, you have multiple options for dealing with every situation, and so that uncertainty can add to the paranoia and the fear. But if it's just confusion, like, wait, what's happening? That kind of takes you out of it, that runs the risk of deflating fear rather than enhancing it. I feel like, again, the idea of having distraction enemies is novel, but as many other reviewers have pointed out, historically, jump scares in these games are a punishment for failure, and them being just these distractions that you don't really know how to avoid it kind of undermines the pacing of the horror. And pacing's really important for horror. And so if like the building tension from like Springtrap getting closer gets interrupted by 2 back-to-back phantom jump scares, you're like, well, that was something. And then Springtrap's lackluster jump scare comes in and you're just like, what? I guess I died.
Yeah, I mean,
I just don't think that's...
No, go ahead, finish it.
I just don't think it's ideal.
I get what you're saying, but I feel as though there are many horror games that don't teach you a lot of the mechanics of the monsters unless you kind of learn from it. Again, we've got a Resident Evil, like, for instance, you don't know how the Tyrant works based on your first time seeing them. When you first see the Tyrant lift up that helicopter and just chuck it aside, from all the enemies you've dealt with, you naturally assume, oh, just shoot him. Oh, what's that? He's got a bulletproof suit. Maybe I should run. Like, you know, it's that fight and flight moment. Like, you're gonna naturally run away from a behemoth of a man just lifting a helicopter and charging you down. But then as you continue playing on, you learn, like, oh, he reacts to sound, he follows you and stuff. Like, you can avoid him if you hide around obstacles as he chases you and he loses sight of you. Similar with lickers. Even if you never found the note of, like, what tells you what the lickers are, first time seeing a licker shows it lifting up a creature and stuff like that, tearing it apart, and then if you just stand there, it does nothing. So if you just move a bit closer, you learn that, oh, it's blind, and then you get around it. Heck, similar with the Quiet Place game I've been live streaming lately. Like, you know, obviously if you're familiar with the movies, you understand how these creatures work. But the more you, like, experiment with the gameplay and stuff like that, you can figure out how to get around these creatures better. And I think that's what this game was aiming for as well with the Phantoms. It's like, right, okay, Freddy scared me the first time, what did I do? And it's like, let me try just not acknowledge him, because what else could I do? You don't acknowledge him, and it works. Or similar with Balloon Boy. Okay, I got jump scared because I came out the camera and I looked at him. What if I just switched the camera to the next camera? Oh, okay, he didn't jump scare me. The only animatronic I still haven't figured out yet is Chica. Like, for instance, she appears in the arcade when she scares you. If you look away to another camera and come back to it, she's gone, but she still jump scares you. I'm not sure. I think she's one of the few Phantoms that just generally just scares you. Like, you can't defend against that.
I think there's a way of dealing with it, but I think I forget what it is. Here, I'll look it up real quick.
Yeah, so, you know, there's different ways, and I think the game wants you to learn how they work. Because I think they add to the tension, because if you're too busy, like, oh crap, I wasn't paying attention, Balloon Boy jump scared me, I've lost my audio, Springtrap was in the third room, you know, so it adds to that sort of, like, you know, I messed up, I've now got to rectify, and hopefully I can lead Springtrap away on time. But overall, that's pretty much the mechanics of the game, really, from point A to point B. Or I guess night 1 to night 2. I mean, in night 1, you could literally just spam audio cues with no repercussions. So, you know.
Okay, so with Phantom Chica, it's the same as, like, Phantom BB. You have half a second to click off the camera, and if you don't, she's going to appear in your office.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, that's the other one I feel as though that, because even many years later I still didn't know it, I guess that shows that, you know, that one was definitely one of the few that maybe I just wasn't big brain enough, you know. I could not understand the Chica mindset. She has ascended beyond our thinking capacity.
The Chica grind set is beyond our comprehension. But yeah, no, and you make a fair point regarding, like, where is the line between what can you expect your players to intuit and what do you need to explain? Because if you over-explain, you run the risk of just dumping an instruction booklet at the start of the game, and that's terrible for pacing. People don't want to start a game and have to read 3 pages of explanations of game mechanics. Trust me, I've been playing some, like, 1970s RPGs recently. That's what those are. You have to read an instruction booklet, or you will have no idea how to do anything, and it's not fun.
I'm a person that grew up with, like, 2000 games. I didn't need to read a menu. Menus for food. And so, like, there is a balancing act there where it's like, yeah, you don't need to explain that Mr. X is basically bulletproof and not something you should be trying to kill. That's just something the players can experience themselves. Maybe they'll waste bullets on him. Maybe they'll even use up all their bullets and successfully down him. But then they'll find out, oh, that was a waste of my resources. Lesson learned. You know, it's like, no matter what happens, it is something that can be fairly reasonably expected of the player to figure out. But with FNAF 3, it's like, again, it's tricky. How much can you expect the players to figure out? And based purely off of my experience watching playthroughs, it seems like a lot of people
if they, like people who don't get help from their chat, who just have the wiki pulled up, they often struggle to figure out how some of the mechanics work, even through to the end of the game. Like, they'll get to the end of the game and be like, yeah, I won. I don't know how I won, but I did. And that says to me that either the mechanics were not well explained enough, or skill was not sufficiently necessary. Because if skill is necessary, then that forces the players to learn, to figure things out. But if it's not necessary, then you have no incentive to use your brain, and gamers do not want to use their brains unless absolutely necessary.
Yeah,
so
I get you.
And so it's a tricky balancing act. So I would say FNAF 3 definitely leans a little too ambiguous with some of the mechanics, especially considering that the Phantoms operate the exact opposite of how animatronics have worked up till now in the franchise. Up until now, the way you protected yourself was to find them in the cameras and stop them and look at them. In fact, if you were one of the 1 in a million people who figured out that you can use cameras to freeze animatronics in FNAF 1 and FNAF 2, then you might even intentionally be trying to look at the Phantoms because you think, oh, that's how I stop them. But no, it's the opposite, and they never address that. You just have to kind of get brute force jump scared. And again, we know, oh, you just have to look away, easy enough. But because they never explain that, again, a lot of players end up, just sort of bungling through and being frustrated. And this is a tricky topic. Like, should we blame the players for not being smart enough to understand the mechanics or figure it out? Or should we blame the game design for being too ambiguous?
Well, Ubisoft say it's okay to blame game developers and gamers, because that's definitely had no repercussions on their brand ever since.
Oh yes, definitely not. I don't know. It's like you kind of end up in this tricky place where it's like, Dark Souls is a great example, where that's a game series that, like, they make a point of not telling you anything as far as how to play the game. They're like, they tell you how to move and how to, like, pick up an item and swing a sword, and they're like, all right, figure out the rest for yourself, chumps. And I'd say a big chunk of why people thought it was so difficult is because the core, like, make the game easy mechanics are not explained. They don't explain how to cast magic. They don't explain that dodge rolls give you invincibility frames. And you know what? If you know those two things, magic and invincibility frames, the game goes from kind of hard to pretty freaking easy, honestly.
Oh yeah, especially if you get the lightning rod, man, like 90% of the bosses just fall to that in like 10 hits.
Oh yeah. Nah, and it's just, so like that's a case of, like, that made the game so hard that it got a reputation for being difficult. But in reality, it wasn't that difficult. It was more so just ambiguous in how it worked. And so, I don't know, it's like, should I criticize Dark Souls for not explaining how dodge rolls and magic works? Or should I praise it for being a game that's still enjoyable, even if you don't understand some of its core gameplay mechanics? I have an answer, and the answer is I will criticize it. How dare you not explain to me how to use a dodge roll, you punks. Well, here I was wearing full heavy armor with a shield thinking this is optimal. And no, it's not optimal. In fact, you're an idiot. Anyway.
Only if you don't know how to use the armor. God. Basic bitch.
Yeah, yeah. Once again, gamers fail game designers.
Jaru, are we sure your name is Jaru Journalist?
Oh no! Listen, I got out of the asylum. I beat the tutorial level. I'm not a journalist.
Wait a minute. Let me just move that part of your name. He was a journalist all this time.
Oh God!
Just this whole time you just had a white sticker over your YouTube account. It's just like he was a journalist all along.
Okay, I'll tell you the truth. I never got out of the ruins in Undertale. Toriel was too hard a boss. But yeah.
I just kept killing her. For the last 10 years, I've just done nothing but kill her.
Oh no, she just kept killing me. You can kill Toriel? I had no idea. Just imagining this fictional journalist who keeps dying to Toriel.
Oh my God. But yeah, like I get what you're saying
But
regarding
yeah,
like, I feel like if they, it's tricky because a lot of survival horrors, I feel like when you get some that over-explain things, like it becomes tedious because it feels like the game's holding your hand, like not allowing you to realize. Like for instance, again bringing it up, I'm playing the Quiet Place game, and in the cutscene, your character picks up a brick and throws it to distract the Death Angels. Now, obviously, me playing Last of Us and even just seeing that cutscene, I already know, like, oh, these creatures get distracted by noises. But then even after that, the game had to put up a tutorial to explain these creatures react to bricks that you throw. It's like, well, yeah, I got that from the cutscene, like... Like, why did that need to be explained to me after you just showed it? Or, like, hey, in like a flashback tutorial, it shows I can hook mini ladders onto bigger ladders to extend so I don't... Because your character has asthma, so they have to use a lot of their energy, but it's like, hey, now I don't have to waste the energy of jumping up to catch a ladder. But then the game, after I manually do it myself, the game still puts up a tutorial explaining that. It's like, I know! Like, I literally did it!
Yeah.
Like, you know, whereas, like, the first Resident Evil, or Resident Evil 2 remake, like, okay, you just see the zombie kill a police officer, and you've got a gun with 10 bullets. Naturally, you're going to think, shoot it in the head, but then you realise after shooting it in the head, doesn't go down immediately. Let me keep shooting it and see what happens. And then you learn, hey, it did kill it eventually. But then you see it start moving again when you pick up the key, because that's meant to be to show you the case. Not all zombies die when you shoot them in the head. Because if they had to keep explaining how each item and how each weapon and each monster worked, it kind of takes you out of the moment, if you know what I mean. Like, it feels like it's the game telling you how to win, which I don't want in a horror game. I want to learn how to defeat the monster myself.
Yeah, and you know, the more I think about it, the more I think the Dark Souls comparison is especially apt here, because much like FNAF 3, Dark Souls had two different kind of eras. Like in its original era, where people didn't really understand how to play because the game doesn't really tell you. It was a game that was just hardcore, and only hardcore pro gamers could beat Dark Souls, and I have it on a T-shirt and all that. But then once information about the game, you know, spread online and people figured out, oh, you can dodge roll and also cast spells to make it easy mode. And then it got a second kind of renaissance where it went from being the game that's so hard to just being a really good game. And similarly, FNAF 3...
Like, the game also allows you to write, like, little fire notes for other players. Like, sometimes they'll be trolling saying, there's a secret sword if you jump off the ledge. You lie, but a lot of times you will find people that says, like, strike this wall, there's a secret, and it's like, oh damn, thank you, whatever your player name was. You've definitely got a 69 in there, I'm pretty sure. This is the Xbox 360 era, after all.
Oh yes, but like, compare that to FNAF 3, and it's a similar deal where when this game was new, everyone pretty universally considered it the worst FNAF game. It took a while because the mechanics were obtuse, they weren't well explained, and, you know, the jump scare from Springtrap was kind of weak. But now, after everyone's kind of labbed out these games to their fullest, people realize, no wait, FNAF 2 is an RNG garbage fest where there's way too many characters and it's more tedious than scary, whereas FNAF 3 actually has some interesting ideas that are innovating upon the core formula. We just didn't realize it at the time because the game didn't explain it to us. So I think what that tells me is that if it took a renaissance for your game to become appreciated because it took time for people to figure out what the mechanics were, that's a problem. That's a flaw. Even if once you understand all the mechanics, it's a better game than FNAF 2, I'd still think that poor explanation is probably its greatest weakness. And Springtrap's weak sauce jump scare. Hey, buddy, like, he looks like he's about to ask me for a pack of cigarettes. Like,
yeah, I will admit, one thing I can definitely say, as games have gone on, they've made Springtrap's jump scares a little bit scary. I mean, hell, even the trailer for Dead by Daylight, like, him just reaching for the girl while he's, like, almost like him fighting against the suit as he reaches for her is so awesome, like, you know, showing, like, the whole, like, he's a literal zombie in, like, an animatronic skeleton.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Nah, it's pretty cool.
But you know what? I guess we'll move on to the last aspect of this, which is the story as well as 100% in the game. Now, this is definitely the worst aspect about this game, because I could praise Springtrap being an antagonist, the theme, the horror aspect, as well as the phantoms and the mechanics. I really struggle to defend the way to get the true ending, quote unquote, as well as the 100% of the game. Because,
yeah,
let's dive into it. So, after you complete each night and you do that little mini game where you follow the animatronic or control the animatronics, you go down the, you know, the original pizzeria. If you go down the left side hallway, you get these weird like hints on like, you know, how to save the children, because there was a message at the end of like in all the mini games of the second game where either Freddy or another animatronic says spells save them. So you know you could look at that as good foreshadowing for the third game.
yeah.
Now, of course, though, where you're explaining like, oh, they don't explain this. The thing that I thought was terrible, even though it explained, like the mechanics to, you know, like it explained like the secret on how to get to the mini game that would unlock the true ending. It didn't really tell you how to get, like it showed you how to get it, but it didn't say the pathway to get there, and it doesn't give any obvious hints on what to do it unless you pay close attention to the environment, or you know, looked up a guide, which, let's be real here, most people did do that. So, for instance, let's talk about, like, I'll just quickly go now. So, yeah, like, for instance, yeah, I just got them up now, so I couldn't remember, like, them off the top of my head, except for 3, because I remember how infamous they were, how bad they were. So, for instance, on the first night, which, you know, it's not as obvious, even with the hint that they showed in the pizzeria, where you just see Balloon Boy, which is like, okay, hi Balloon Boy, there's a little cameo. And yeah, so naturally on night 1, even though there's no animatronic, each night is important on how to get the true ending. So, for instance, you're like, okay then, so thanks Balloon Boy, now what do I do? There's nothing in my office. You had to, a lot of the times, on how to get like all the secrets, you had to look through the cameras to find the things that would trigger the story missions, you could say. The problem with that is, as we brought up at the start of this video, because of how crap the camera quality is, you wouldn't know what to select because they're too fuzzy. Like for Balloon Boy, you gotta find a picture of Balloon Boy in one of the random cameras. It's like, okay, how would I know that? There's literally pictures of animatronics everywhere. Why, like, you couldn't put like a Balloon Boy toy on my desk and be like, oh, you were never there before. The reason I say this is because, hey, this other hint was quite good. Like, you know, I can't remember if it was night 4 or night 3. But yeah, you need to find like when you go for, I think you're playing as Chica, and you see a Shadow Bonnie. Now, if you pay attention to your environment as well as your desk, you have like little like amiibo figures of like the Five Nights at Freddy's cast. But if on the certain night, you'll notice, hold on a minute, there's this fourth animatronic here. You select him and it takes you to one of the mini games. Other ones is like, oh, find all the cupcakes, 5 cupcakes of like Chica hidden around the levels. Oh, but they're decayed and they're black and they blend into all the environment of the levels. So good luck trying to find them with a fuzzy camera. It's like, oh, yeah, okay, sure. And the worst one has to be the final night, where this one kind of explains the lore aspect of like who Springtrap could be. And, you know, I'm trying to remember exactly what you had to do. I think, do you know what? No, yeah, it was, no, actually, no, this one was done good because it explained, like, Bonnie and stuff, like, you know, the Shadow Bonnie thing, which, hey, it's kind of fitting that's for the final night. However, so it starts off where you're playing as Freddy and you're with, like, Springtrap, or at the time known as Yellow Bear and Yellow Bunny, which, A-tier names. It was the 70s or 80s, you know.
So, was it?
I don't know. It was one of those time periods. Five Nights at Freddy's lore is crazy.
Who knows? For all we know, it was 2070s. Like,
2070s. It was just a misinput when they gave all your cash. They're like, I was meant to say 2070. You know what, it's fine. They're being paid basically. That's their trick. Every time you go to cash this in, they'll be like, I'm sorry, this is expired. You son of a...
They won't even. Not only will they not pay you a good amount, but they're gonna give you a fake check. Curse you, Fazbear Entertainment.
Is that scene from Family Guy when Peter's like, "Hey, this chicken gave me this coupon. It's fine." He just smashed out the way. It's just Freddy standing there. It's like, "I'm sorry, this is fine. You son of a." And it's just Michael just tackling Freddy to the ground. So like, you're given this level where you're with Freddy and Bonnie, or Yellow Bear and Yellow Bunny, and you can walk around, you can interact with children. Now, the other levels were pretty simple, like, they were boring, like, collect all the balloons as Balloon Boy, and you'll free one of the children, collect, like, give all the children their pizzas and stuff like that, and, be sure to dodge the cakes and give the cake to the crying child. Like, it's basic platformers that anyone can make on, like, Flash Game Maker. But the fifth night, you had to glitch out of a very tiny corner of a map to basically glitch out to enter another map, to which then you had to glitch out of that to turn into a glitch Bonnie, to then glitch back into the area where you can meet all the children and set their souls free. It's like, yeah, I totally would get that when I first see that I'm here. It's like, literally, the only way, if you never looked up at Wikipedia, you'll pretty much be like running left and right until something happened. And when you have a mechanic like that, where you're just like, I'll just run around and hopefully something will happen, then you've lost the player, because at that point they're not interested in the game, they're interested in getting out of the game, because they're stuck in an area. Because at least on the other levels, if you failed, it would just take you back to the level, and then annoyingly you would have to redo the level just to get the good ending, I suppose. But this one is like, you can't even fail here, like, you're stuck here until you solve it.
Yeah, it's funny because you say how, like, you're just running back and forth hoping something will happen, and it's like, it's funny because, again, I've been playing these 1970s, early 1980s computer RPGs, and that is what they were, and it's like, it's miserable. It's awful. There's nothing enjoyable about wandering in circles hoping something interesting will happen. It's like, wow, I feel like my time has been thoroughly wasted. Thank you, game developer. I get it. They were trying to be this whole, as a community, let's dig through the code and find all the mysteries. But it's like, if you're not part of that community and you're just looking back at it as a video game, then it's a huge flaw that the main good ending is hidden behind all this cryptic bull.
If it was something like, okay, you got the true ending, but then it's like, hey, if you want to have a go at some little mini games and discover, like, I don't know, an interesting, like, backstory of some of these characters or their creators or Springtrap himself, that's a little thing. Like, the mini games when you die in the second game, they weren't necessary to complete the game.
Exactly.
There was just that little Easter egg. These ones are like Easter eggs that you have to find.
Yeah, no, it's, again, like, exactly what you're saying. It's like, a good example is Undertale, where, like, there's a ton of super obscure secrets that are so annoying to get, but they are extremely optional and are only of interest to the most hardcore fans and are usually irrelevant to the main story. So it's just one of those things where it's like, it's okay that they're so hard to get because they're not for everyone and they're not important. But with FNAF 3, the good ending is hidden behind this nonsense. And it's not even like a good ending where you feel like you accomplished something, where it's like, I went the extra mile and did something impressive. Like, I like, like with Undertale, you get a good ending by, being a pacifist and not hurting anyone. And that makes it harder because fighting is a much simpler prospect. But like, that makes it feel rewarding when you get the good ending because you worked for it. You did something more than what was expected. But with FNAF 3, you didn't work for it. You just beat your head into a wall until the game gave you something. And it's like, that doesn't feel rewarding. That feels arbitrary. It doesn't feel like I accomplished anything.
Yeah, and
So yeah.
yeah, like it's such a like it's not a bad idea in concept, but the fact that that's the way to complete the game, and I guess we'll kind of discuss like the actual 2 endings you can get for the game, and this is also another weak aspect to an extent. Like, okay, the reveal that Springtrap was the purple guy that's been murdering people. I love the cutscene, like when you complete, either if you got the 100% story or you just played it, you know, just through the nights without doing the mini games. You play as like one of the children, and then you corner like Springtrap or like, you know, the purple guy, and obviously you can't do anything to him. You're just following him, and he's all like panicking, running left and right. But then remembering like if you were paying attention to the lore and stuff like talking about the spring logs, he panically gets into a suit, but obviously in his whole panic and stuff like that, trying to hide away from like the ghost. And like, I love the sound design for this man as well, because it starts off sounding all pixelated and stuff, like you hear like the little video gamey like theme as you're chasing him. As soon as he gets into the suit and you hear his like pixelated like almost like Legend of Zelda, the first game, Ganon laugh, ha ha ha, like when you get a game over, like you hear his like little like animated laugh, but then as soon as you hear the showing that the spring logs, a little blood coming out, you just see him shaking, and all you do is just watch him as this pixelated body like crumbles down. Like, just visualizing what that must look like from a real life perspective. I mean, hell, people have done fan animations of it. Like, just realizing that this man's probably in like agonizing pain. Hell, I'll even say this is more brutal than how they did it in the movie, where you just kind of see one of the Springlots crush the ribs, and then William just goes, "I always come back," which, again, it's still one of my major issues with that film. Is that a good film? That line just felt so forced. Like, has he died before?
Yeah.
You know, like, it's
yeah, no. But it's fan service to the point of madness. It doesn't make any sense.
It just shows he's so overconfident. Like, don't worry, I'll come back to life. Your ribcage is literally being crushed. You are choking on your blood. And you're being dragged away by the animatronics. I always come back. How do you know, though? I always come back. You know.
Gross delusional.
But in this one, like, you don't get any like dramatic music. You just hear the silence as like Springtrap's just like, you know, leaning against the wall and like shaking, like crazy as his body's being crushed. And the thing that's really great is because they kind of revealed this in the trailer, because you wouldn't think of it at first glance, but yeah, that little animation where it shows him like vaulting and shaking around sporadically in the trailer, that is Springtrap's death. That was even confirmed. That was his death moment.
Yeah.
Which, you know, and you could see it from a 3D perspective. Obviously, it's not as bloody as the pixelated version, but you can kind of see, like, the lights are flickering in his eyes. You see, like, the jitter and, like, the suit. It's like, yeah, that looks painful. Like, you know, I mean, I've never been impaled by, like, multiple spikes stabbing my ribcage and throat, but going by the little images that we see, like, another thing I mentioned, like, in the image where it shows him lifting up the mask, you actually see, like, 2 pieces of like metal like striking through the jaw, which is like, yeah, that's definitely got to be painful.
Yeah.
Like, really great villain death, especially for a character like him. And it just makes like, it almost kind of makes like the ending where the place burns down almost feel like his hell. Like, you know, he'd done this to all these children, and the reason why he's at this place does get explained in the novels, but obviously from a game perspective, like, you know, just based on the cutscenes or the mini games, it kind of looks like he's doing it for like a sadistic reason, like, you know, like, oh, these animatronics that tried to kill me at one point, ha ha ha, you're dead, I killed you just like when you were children. And the irony is that, oh, he's hid the bodies of children in these animatronics. He is now doomed to be in the animatronic suit himself for all of eternity, now reduced to being a prop for a horror theme until the place just burns down with him in it.
Yeah, and the idea, like, it's great dramatic irony, and also conceptually, in theory, it should make Springtrap a much scarier antagonist, because up till now, the animatronic enemies were the ghosts of children who are just lashing out. They were ultimately innocent entities. Whereas now you have a serial killer haunting an animatronic, which should be far more villainous in nature, far more malicious. And in theory, at least, that is very intimidating. In practice, bit of a mixed bag, but you know, at least I respect the idea of it.
Well, I think it's all. Like, I think the story aspect and the irony of it helps it, especially with how much you've had to deal with this guy. It goes to show, like, he's now just forced into being like. Obviously, future games further explain he didn't die from the fire, hence his whole catchphrase. I always come back. I mean, hell, the latest game. Well, not the latest game now because it's the Mimic, but in like Security Breach, like spoiler alert, Springtrap was somehow still alive, and now he could be like in a digital like Matrix soul thing. Seriously, Springtrap's power gets really weird later on. He goes from being like this person suffering his crimes, being in an animatronic suit, to being like this sort of phantom god that could control the souls of like the animatronics. Even though it's like, wait, I thought the animatronics were children. This is just getting confusing. Yeah, seriously, Springtrap gets like crazy buffs. Death Battle, when you bring Springtrap in, actually he was on the champion poll, so he might be coming sooner than we expected. But you know, but just that alone, like, I think this just future games just further like showcase just how awesome of a villain Springtrap is. Like, anytime they introduce a new animatronic main villain, even the Mimic. There's never been a moment I felt intimidated by them. Like, hell, none of the animatronics in Security Breach I was scared by, but when they showed the twist that Springtrap was somehow still alive, I was like, it's gotten to a point now, he doesn't even have, like, the full body anymore. It literally is just the endoskeleton and little bits of human flesh and even his skull. Like, his jaw can be seen now, like, his rotten jaw. It's like, this man has been cooked 20 times by now, and he is still kicking.
You know, it's quite miraculous. I'll give him that. Although that does kind of segue into a topic that I think is worth discussing, which is, you know, this is the debut of the main antagonist of the franchise. And I am not convinced that it was handled as well as it could have been. And I get it. I think if we were just looking at this through the lens of FNAF 3 as like the last FNAF game, I'd say it works better. But with the hindsight of it being the introduction of the Afton villain, it's kind of like he just sort of shows up. He just is like, hey, it's me. I'm gonna get you. It's just like, okay, you know, all this build up.
You kind of remind me of like, have you ever seen like Snap Cube's like Sonic dubs?
Yeah.
You reminded me of like the Boston sounding like Black Doom, like, hey, it's me, the devil. I'm here to convince you to do sins.
Hey, it's me, Afton. I'm gonna get you. You got any smokes?
Just Springtrap by the window, and he just smokes a spliff when he looks at you like, you're gonna have to look away eventually. And when you do, oh, I'm gonna see 20 of you, but I'm gonna get you.
You know, I'm a patient man. I got the 20 pack. I'll be here all night. I got nothing to do. Yeah, no, I think as the, you know, ending for a indie trilogy of games that were much more subdued, I think his character is handled fine. But as the introduction for a character who would need to be this overarching nightmare monster man for an entire franchise, he kind of just shows up, and there's not nearly. If this game was made today, there'd be a great deal more spectacle surrounding his character, I suspect, because it's him. It's the guy. It's the terrifying demon man. Him just showing up and being like, "Oh, it's Grandpa. I'm here. I'm gonna get you." It's kind of like, that's a choice.
I even think like Indie Cross actually made Springtrap more threatening than even in his own game.
Oh yeah, no, and same with Dead by Daylight, where it's like bros like hucking axes at people and running around super fast and teleporting, and I'm like, brother, they buffed the hell out of you. What the heck happened?
I'm still baffled that there is a horror crossover game where you can have Springtrap pursuing Bill from Left 4 Dead 2, freaking like Ash from Evil Dead, Leon and Jill from Resident Evil, while in Silent Hill. It's like, this is a franchise.
We are truly in the Fortnite age of media. Everyone is here.
We've come full circle. We talked about Purple Guy doing the Fault dance, and now we're in the Fortnite. Yeah, we've come full circle.
Yep. Do.
Yeah, I guess this would be a good way to go to our final thoughts on this game. Like, is this game as good as the first game? No, not by a long shot. But is this a good sequel to an already good horror game? I think so. I think mechanic-wise, story-wise, to an extent, and even like the horror aspects of it are done really well. I didn't feel as uncomfortable with like, you know, the animatronics of the first games. They showed more personality and stuff like that. But I feel as though like Springtrap is good in his own way. The fact he has pretty much similar mechanics as all the animatronics combined into one. There's more survival horror elements and not just RNG to an extent as heavily as it was in the second game. Maybe a little bit in the first game as well, but that's only if you go for like the crazy difficulty, like, you know, optional like bonus level. And the game introduced a villain that we probably would have expected to just be a one-time villain for this game, and he is like he's like the Voldemort of FNAF, like, you know. You think he's gone, but then he comes back, you know. And even the fan base loved him as a character. I mean, we mentioned Indie Cross, you know, they thought, hey, for this, like, fan animated series of indie game characters, who do we have for Five Nights at Freddy's? It's like, let's have Frisk fight Springtrap. It's like, that's stupid, but I kind of am all for it.
It's, I have a great deal. Sorry, did you have more?
Yeah, I just want my final thoughts was just like, honestly, I think this game is just heavily over criticized. Like, yeah, it has its flaws. Like the bonus level to get the final ending is stupid. The lore dump over like teaching people mechanics is really weak. Like, you know, you got to at least give hints towards how to survive. You know, and just overall though, like, you know, it feels like it was very ambitious, but also trying to rectify mistakes of the previous game. You know, but overall, though, I would say it's a solid sequel to a game. It's good and scary, it's got fun mechanics, and it's not as tedious as the previous game.
Indeed. And as far as my thoughts go, you know, in the grand scheme of things, you know, great games are, you know, a joy to experience, and bad games are hilarious to experience. But what is perhaps even more intriguing are the games in the middle that have good elements and bad, strengths and weaknesses, because those are the most interesting to dissect and analyze and try to improve upon, as some of the greatest games ever made were built with the idea of, I want to make this game but better. I want to do this but with the flaws fixed. And I think those flawed but intriguing entries are some of the most memorable and intriguing aspects of any franchise. And to be certain, FNAF 3 is the most intriguing, flawed, but still quality experiences in the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise.
Yeah, and I'm really glad that hopefully more people will start seeing Five Nights at Freddy's 3 as like, yeah, it, you know, in the grand scheme of things, it's not as good as the first game, but, you know, it is a solid game that I don't think was as half-baked as people say. It's a solid sequel to a game. Like, if this game came out maybe after Five Nights at Freddy's 1, I think people would have more fond memories of it. I mean, I could be wrong about that. People for a long time were praising the second game over the third game. I was like, Yeah, I don't vibe with this. Like, you know, I've always had that kind of hot take. Like, I'm one of the few people that didn't enjoy Dino Crisis, even though it feels as though that should be right up my alley. So, you know, take my opinion on FNAF 3 with a grain of salt, people. But, yeah, I think with all that said and done, do you have any final says before we do our little wrap-up?
You know, it's a better third entry in a franchise than Final Fantasy 3, because, you know, I still haven't finished that game, so clearly, you know.
Okay, you know what, I'm not even going to say it because I was like, oh, here we go, like the build up and everything.
What could you possibly be talking about, you know? I don't know what you can mean, Bill.
To be honest, I didn't even know there was a Final Fantasy 3. I always thought it started at Final Fantasy 7. Was I lied to all
you
this
know,
time?
I'm playing right now. I've been playing RPGs that predate Final Fantasy 1, so you know, Final Fantasy 1 will be like a golden age for me when I reach it. Like that, Jesus Christ. Anyway,
but yeah, yeah, I suppose that's where we'll end it off. Thank you all so much for watching, and hey, did you enjoy Five Nights at Freddy's 3? Do you think it's underrated, or do you think it deserves all the hate it gets? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below, and hey, let's hear it for when we eventually talk about Five Nights at Freddy's 4, the best in the quadality!
Woo! I love going deaf. Woo!
Farewell, everybody.
Adios.